Welcome to Tim Stodd's FM, a place to share new ideas, speak freely, and continuously find ways to live our best lives. And now your host, Tim Stoddard.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Tim Stoddard. Welcome to Tim Stodd's FM. Thank you so much for joining me. Shit, I'm excited about this week's episode. These guys were so cool. It was probably one of the most exciting companies that I've found, and I was thrilled that I was able to get these two fine gentlemen on my podcast. Before we get into this week's episode, let me catch you guys up with what's been going on. So, as the diehard Tim Stodd's FM listeners know, I didn't put out an episode last week, and I'm sorry about that. I was in Los Angeles. I was in sunny California meeting a friend of mine, getting some dinner, talking shop. I love LA. It's no wonder that people go there and they just feel gravitated to be there. I got some people trying to convince me to move out there as well, but I don't know, thinking about it. I'm enjoying my time here in Nashville, and I'm in this phase of my life, man, where I'm trying not to take everything so seriously. You know, not every second has to be about optimizing my life and finding ways for like the most successful career, the most successful life, and the best relationships and all that shit. Sometimes I can just relax and be myself and enjoy the work that I do. And so that's what I've been trying to do. I've been making sure that I'm enjoying my blog, getting my daily posts out there every day. By the way, for all the diehard readers, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate your support. It's such an amazing feeling to see all of the people that religiously open my blog posts and my newsletter through the daily emails that I send out and the replies that I get from all of y'all. It's like, it's so fucking motivating and inspiring to me. So thank you all. And in my podcast as well, I'm trying to just find interesting people. I'm trying to find fascinating people that are doing things that they're passionate about and finding ways to tell those stories. So it's a work in progress, but man, I really, really appreciate all the support. So a few things to get caught up on. Stodzy, my agency, we're about to totally launch a brand new website. I cannot wait to show everybody this website. It's probably the most clean and just refreshing design that David has ever done, I think. That kid is just so talented, and he just keeps getting better and better, refining his design process, and together we're learning about, you know, how to effectively combine design with like minimalist copywriting, and I'm really excited. Hopefully by the time this podcast goes out, which will be tomorrow, which will be the 29th, the website will be live. So we'll see. Stodzy.com to check that out. STODZY. All right, enough of me rambling. Let's get into this week's episode. This week I interviewed two gentlemen, Franco Rivas and Gonzalo Sanchez. They are both born in Argentina, and they make me feel like I don't work that hard and like I'm not that smart. So they're both multilingual. They've both worked together and started companies. And the company that we talked about in this week's episode is called Weekly.gg. It is a weekly newsletter that informs young entrepreneurs and young business professionals about the week's most relevant and important esports news. I know I've been on a weekly esports kick, guys. I can't help it. I'm just so excited about the future of esports and about competitive gaming and what it's going to look like in the next 6 months, the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. I'm telling you guys, this shit's going to take over. With all of that, I'm making a bold prediction right here, right now. Weekly.gg is going to be one of the most important media outlets in the entire industry. The product that these two gentlemen put out every week is really phenomenal. It's a beautiful newsletter. It's informative. It's entertaining. It's easily digestible. And God, I'm just so excited about what they're doing. I'm like a fan. I'm a real fan of their product. And I was really thrilled that they came out onto my podcast. All right, it's been about 5 minutes of me aimlessly rambling about my life and about the things that are going on with it. So please help me welcome Franco Rivas and Gonzalo Sanchez from weekly.gg.
Yeah, definitely.
Hellies.
Are you guys ready to do this?
Yeah, man, for sure.
Ready to roll.
Fantastic. Well, Franco, Gonz, thank you so much for joining me on my show today. I really appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday to come chat with me.
No, man, thanks for
Absolutely.
having us. Very happy to be here.
Great. So, well, first, two things. We're just going to kind of jump right in. This is the first time I've ever had two people on my show at one time.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to like the different dynamic of a conversation in that way.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
to start off, I'm like, my show isn't an esports show. It's kind of a mix between like an entrepreneurial show and just finding like really fascinating people. But so much of the last couple months has just been having guests that are involved in the esports scene in many different ways. My last guest was a guy that actually created like the first esports stock. And a couple weeks before that, I had a pretty big esports streamer. And I can't help but get you guys on the show because what's going on in this scene is like so exciting to me and just so like fascinating because nobody really knows exactly where it's going to go or where it's going to head. And I guess I just wanted to start with your guys' take on how you even got involved in the gaming scene in the first place. Like, were you guys gamers as a kid? Are you not gamers and just kind of like the scene? Tell me a little bit about that context for you.
All right. So I think that both of us, so we Gonzalo and I, we know each other for a long time since we're kids. And when we were younger, we used to play some games. We're not the type of people that would be like full gamers. We've never been. We used to play like a little bit of, Age of Empires maybe back in the day. But
Some FIFA as well.
Yeah.
I think a little bit is a bit of an understatement. We played quite a bit. But we're definitely not the progress gamer types. But yeah, we played quite a bit. Age of Empires, Counter-Strike, FIFA.
Yeah.
Whatever we could get our hands on when we were kids.
Yeah. And on my end, later on, when I traveled to US, when I did like 2 years of college in Argentina, and then I went to United States, and I'd never seen what esports was. I just knew a little bit about games. That's it. And when I was over there, it was in Kansas. I found out these people in a gaming club playing League of Legends, and I guess that was the first time I saw it in a competitive way. And I really got very interested in how committed they were and how specifically they were thinking on what it takes to be a pro gamer. So that's what I first saw the scene pretty much like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, on my end.
Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, on my end, I started. So a friend of mine who lives like right next door started playing Age of Empires all over again, and I started following like the Age of Empires pro scene and watching streamers, watching tutorials, just trying to beat his ass, and that's how I started when I was a bit older.
So you said something there that really stood out to me, and you said how competitive it was, and I think that's probably one of the main things that people need to understand these days. For instance, I don't know if you guys wrote about it in your newsletter. I think you did, and obviously we're going to talk about the newsletter, weekly.gg, but on Twitter, there was like a big storm of people freaking out that there was, I think it was maybe it was a League of Legends match that was on ABC, and people were going like, oh my God, what is this? The world's coming to an end. There's sports on TV. But like what you said there, which really stood out, is an important distinction. You said it's competitive. It's not just sitting around a living room playing games. There's like real competition involved and real stakes involved and real money involved. And real like hard work involved. It's not just playing games, it's training, what you were talking about. And it took me a little while to see the difference there, but once I did, I really started to like respect it as an industry.
No, definitely. It's absolutely crazy to think about it, but it's a reality. I mean, if you think about it way back in the day when I guess football started, like a lot of people I'm pretty sure were like, "Dude, what the fuck are these people doing? They're just chasing a ball," right? And later on, literally they know now it's the biggest entertainment and form of competition out there. It's the same with esports. It's completely the same. There's just a little few amount of people that are able to reach that, I guess, level of technique and skill and mentality to be a pro. It's not just, smashing some keys and that's it. It really takes a lot. It really takes a lot of skill to be there. And it depends obviously on the game, right? Different games, different skills.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I didn't grow up playing video games too much. I would play Halo with my friends from time to time, and obviously GoldenEye, and just those kind of games where you could sit around a TV and sort of scream and yell at each other. But for me, I was kind of trolling around on YouTube, I think, and I saw a live competitive match of StarCraft in Seoul, South Korea, and basically sold out, like an arena. I remember just looking at it at this video. It was 4 or 5 years ago, and I never seen anything like it. I was like, well, I don't know, like what is this? And it really just kind of captured my imagination and got my attention. And now, since that scene has, I think it's kind of safe to say that Seoul, South Korea continues to be like the mecca of a lot of competitive esports, but it's global now, Europe and Germany and obviously the US. And from talking to you, it's getting bigger in South America as well. I mean, where do you see this stopping? Do you feel like I feel that it's going to be the biggest entertainment industry that there is, or do you think that there's a cap on it?
I wouldn't think it's stopping, and we're actually betting part of our livelihood on it with our company. I think esports is probably the biggest industry. Like no one's talking about, just people who are close to it. I think that will change, like especially once you look at like the readership numbers, for instance. Like the last League of Legends final had a bigger audience than most of the American like sporting events, except the Super Bowl. So to be honest, I don't think it's stopping. Like the numbers are impressive right now, but what's most impressive, it's also the growth rate. You can see the industry just growing at an unprecedented rate every single year. So I don't think it's stopping. I don't know what you think, Franco.
No, definitely. I think it really showed a lot of, in the last 5 years, it showed the potential, and it's definitely here to stay. It's interesting what is the path that it's going to take. There's a lot of path it could go. It could go, wrong in a lot of ways. It could really go in others, but it's not stopping it. I don't think it's definitely going to grow.
I think you guys are right. And quickly, I want to just get into the reason why I invited you guys on the show in the first place. I wanted to start with like a little bit of context about esports, so that if people listening to this don't have as much familiarity with it, they get a grip, an understanding as to how big it is and how big it's getting. But really, why I wanted to talk to you is because of your guys' newsletter. I'm a huge proponent of newsletters. I think that from a marketing standpoint, email has, and probably always will be like the most effective marketing channel. And I think it's really the case, especially now where there's so many different people fighting for ridiculous, not valuable attention, like Facebook likes and Instagram likes. From a marketing standpoint, it's not nearly as valuable as like a really, really strong email list. And I saw your newsletter, man, and I'm just so excited about it. Like, first off, you guys put out a really, really good product, and I mean that. It's difficult to be a good writer. It's difficult to write newsletters in a way where like you format it properly with bullet points and kind of short sentences, and like knowing what to put bold so that you can keep people's attention. You guys do a really, really great job on it. So I could ramble on about it because like I'm really excited about it, but I want to hear where you guys got the idea and like when you decided, yeah, fuck it, let's do this.
We're big proponents of newsletters as well. I agree with you 100%. Like email, it's an underrated channel. People have been saying that email is dead and will be dead for years. And we see new companies popping up in the space, like Superhuman as an email client, or companies like Insight, Substack, or just newsletters like ourselves. Email is not dead at all. It's growing. That's where about 6-7 months ago we started with a different newsletter called Seat Table. That's where we sort of got our feet wet, and then Franco and I sort of teamed up and came up with weekly, mostly based on his background, which he can tell us a bit about.
Well, I think that is something that you said that is really important. That it's true that there's so much stuff and information outside, especially in esports, because most of the people that are involved in esports, they come from the digital, right? And not only the people that are creating the content, but also the streamers, the programmers, all of them, they create their content. So there's an insanely amount of information around. And for us, Gonski showed us the ways of newsletters and how they grow and how personal they can get. And we thought that was a great opportunity to throw out in the industry, and we didn't see it, in another companies. So we wanted to have that little personal email every Friday at your door and tell you a little bit about all things esports in a way that everybody can understand, not only the veterans, but also the newcomers.
So what do you think is the core behind what you guys write about? Would you consider yourself a news-based newsletter? Are you an entertainment newsletter? Like what's your core message? Who are you trying to speak to?
So we're talking to the business professionals of esports, right? There's a curated newsletter that we do grab the most important that happened during the week. For the people that are, in general, the people that are involved is high executives, CEOs, head of partnerships of endemic and non-endemic sponsorships, and we try to talk to them, to the investors that are trying to get into the scene, but in an entertained way. I think we are a form of entertainment at some point. We try to have that voice that is an informal, conversational, and human voice.
Yeah, I think you guys do it really well. You mix the informative element with the entertainment element, because you have to be kind of entertaining, or else it's, I don't know, just a finance report or an investment report. But when I look at it, it's like a perfect blend between young entrepreneurs and business professionals that sort of see this as something that they, maybe want to do with their lives or get involved with. And as a gamer, one of the cool things about esports is there's kind of drama involved with it as well. There's storylines, and there's there's different people competing against each other, whether that's in a game or whether that's in business. And I noticed that you guys do that really well. You find those drama points where you can, pull a story out of, and then you tell it in a very short, bite-sized, digestible manner.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things that we wanted to sort of mimic when we started is, we imagine ourselves like being your esport friend, that guy who knows a bunch about esports, but he's not either super nerdy or super businessy, just your cool friend who knows about esports, and he's telling you about everything related to esports. So cool storylines, but also business stuff, and who fundraise money and what cool partnerships are going on, just overview. And that's sort of the tone and the style that we're going after, and I think it's working.
I was just reading this book about kind of defining your USP, he called it, your unique selling proposition. Like, what are you that nobody else is? And I think it's brilliant that from the very beginning, you guys even have that tagline, like, or your cool friend that tells you about esports? When you said that, I can kind of picture myself like hanging out around a bar with some of my friends, you know, and maybe my cool friends like throwing back a beer or something like that, telling me about all the crazy stories that happened to him this week. That's so important. A lot of brands have an idea, but they really struggle with their identity, I guess. And it's great that you guys have that first, because you can grow into your content, but it's hard to like grow into an identity.
Yeah.
I think that happens when you don't think enough about, or when you don't start with your customer. If you start thinking about who your customer is, and in our case, a subscriber, then you, as a function of that, you can't be everything to everyone. You need to be super relevant to that customer. I think that's when we started like realizing that we needed to be super specific and super relevant and sort of defining ourselves, and then start from there.
Yeah, also at the end of the day, like most of the people that are in charge of these teams and these companies are very young in this industry, right? Like
yeah,
now
it's wild how much money there is with like people that are too young to have that much money.
Yeah, you can see examples of young people that are really stepping up the game of how things are done correctly, but there's a lot of young people that have mistakes because they get all these injections of money. It's a lot of money, and they maybe rush opportunities or rush decisions. And because all these people are young, I guess that the tone that we're doing in the newsletter works because they want to hear it like that. They want to be informal in the way that the stories are told.
Yeah, great point. And Gons, you made a point too, which we have a lot of things in common, I can tell, even just from this short conversation, because when you said you can't be everything to everybody, but you have to be something to somebody, you said something around there. There's so much content and so much information that in order to really succeed, it's important to not try to think to yourself, I need to get as many subscribers as possible. Like, it's better to have a smaller amount of subscribers by people that actually want to hear the shit that you're saying, you know? So if you know exactly who it is that you're talking to, you guys are in a perfect starting position. And I talk about this a lot because I have just a methodology behind the brands that I start. And that's probably the first thing. Like, the idea isn't to be as big as possible. The idea is to find the people in your tribe and like speak to them. And the fact that you guys already kind of have that, I think it shows that you're going to continue to have a real successful newsletter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for us that was one of the main things that we try to achieve at the beginning. You know, let's not just put advertising money, just throw it there and get as many people as possible. Let's try to build the content for just a little niche of people that we know they want this, and try to, you know, make them happy so they can bring the people and build that mouth to mouth.
Yeah, I think a good indicator of that is that we don't look that much at the number of subscribers. We care a lot more about the open rates and the number of clicks and the number of replies.
Yes.
Those are the metrics that we use for quality and engagement, and that's what cares the most. That's what matters the most to us. And we'd rather have or focus our energy on delivering a fantastic product and getting a 65-70% open rate than just throwing something out there for thousands and thousands.
Hold on, you guys have a 65% open rate?
It comes and goes, but it's usually over 50.
Yeah.
No way. Over 50? You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're consistently over 50.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's amazing. Congratulations, first off. Like, that's amazing. And really, really exciting. So let me switch positions here a little bit. Even just talking to you guys, like, it's clear that you didn't just have an idea and went with it. Like, you know what you're doing, even just kind of the terminology that you guys are using. So before we started recording, Gons, you briefly told me a little bit about your background. You were involved in e-commerce, but Franco, I don't really know about your background. I probably should have started with this, but just listening to you guys, like like I said, it's clear that you know like what you're doing and what you're talking about. So where'd you learn all of this?
So we worked together at the beginning when we were like, I can't remember, Gone, what time was it? We were like 16, 19? Okay.
Yeah,
so
19, I think.
Yeah, we did like a startup together in Argentina. Gons was always involved with growth marketing since he was young. He kind of took me into the entrepreneurial life, and he gave me some books, so I started craving those too. And then later on, we sold our business, and then each of us did a little path. So he went to keep working into growth marketing in different companies, and then I went to study business in US and graduated. And after that, I got involved more in the creative side of design, UX, UI, videography, until I found Fnatic, which is one of the biggest teams in esports. It's located in London, and I wanted to work in esports since when I discovered it in US. So I applied for a UX UI design position there, and I worked there for a year and a half, and then we decided to make ourselves and do it weekly, and came back together with Gons and another friend from Argentina, and built up with everything we knew. So we kind of combined Gons marketing side, my design and esports background, and the other guy called Alan, he is really good salesperson. So the three of us are kind of complementing what we're trying to create.
So what was the business that you guys started together that you said you sold? You guys already sold a company?
Yeah, that was the e-commerce company I mentioned at the beginning. We started it when I started with another friend when I was 19. 3 or 4 months later, I got Franco to join us, and we ended up selling that company. Of course, definitely not for a life-changing amount of money, but it was for us at the time. And after that, that's sort of when we diverged paths. Franco got into business school. I got into growing stuff. I've been growing companies and startups for the past, 7, 8 years or so, mostly in the e-commerce and B2B space. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
But so what was it? What was the first, like you said, it was an e-commerce brand. Was it like an Amazon store? Were you guys selling t-shirts?
No. It was sort of like a first version of DNVB, sort of digital native vertical brand with it, mostly clothes and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't like a huge amount of money, but you guys got the experience of like starting something and then growing it and then scaling it and then selling it. I'm sure that was really valuable for you.
Yeah, we raised some cash on the way, which also helps. So we got the experience, like we got everything. We got the high highs, raising money, selling stuff, the low lows, just everything in between. And we got a bunch of experience. We were super young, and we're super thankful, not only for that experience, but for going through that experience together as a team. Like Franco said, we're childhood friends, but we also went through a company together. So that's definitely helpful. Now, like 6, 7 years later, we're starting another one. So
exciting times.
Yeah,
that is really exciting. So another thing, I always try to add some like technical value to people listening, because a lot of people follow me and they listen to my podcast because of just the advice I give about growing brands and growing companies. So I had actually, you mentioned Substack. I had Hamish McKenzie. He was one of the founders of Substack on my podcast. I think what they're doing is really, really cool. And they have like a cool monetization method where you give away most of your free content and then you just have subscribers for premium content or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks to me like you guys, well, truth be told, I haven't quite figured out how you guys plan on monetizing. With newsletters, there's a few really, really tried and true monetization methods, but I think that a lot of people make the mistake of trying to monetize it too soon. And I get the impression that you guys are just worried or working towards building your follower base. But is there like a monetization path? I'm curious on what route you guys plan to take.
So we actually have a monetization process right now working, which is at the moment, the newsletter is 100% value. We are not monetizing that except from sponsors that want to sponsor the individual newsletter. The premium plans are on the go, but not at the moment. We want to wait for that. But what we do have is it's a list called GG List. So if you go to the webpage, it's weekly.gg/list. We created there is an esports network kind of database where you have thousands of data on companies, communities, people, investors, sponsors, all related to esports. So that's our entry on monetization today.
Yeah, we like to think as that as sort of like crunch base for esports, sort of like an MVP hacky way. That's how we're monetizing right now. But on the newsletter side, we're not super concerned about that yet. For me, the paid newsletter model is definitely interesting. I've been following Substack for a while. I subscribe to a bunch of newsletters like Stratechery, for instance. So I think we're definitely going to explore that route. And chances are that when the time comes, we're going to look into Substack. But for now, like as I mentioned before, what we're looking for or what we're trying to optimize for are those engagement metrics to make sure that we're really delivering value before asking for money, hard-earned money in exchange.
I think that's really cool. It's difficult to be patient with that kind of thing, but with newsletters especially, because inboxes are so what's the word, like protected. Like, we get spammed every single day in a million different ways, but you ever notice for some reason if somebody gets a spam email, like you're just super pissed off and you feel like, I don't know, somebody like violated your personal space, like email inboxes are really just protected and personal, I guess you could say. Like we feel
safe place.
Yeah, it really is. So when somebody opts into a newsletter or just opts into any kind of email, really, I think it's important to respect that because they gave you permission to say like, hey, I want you to talk to me. And if you violate that with like spamming them or trying to monetize it too early, I think you could really screw yourself. And I've seen people do that before. So I think that's great what you guys are doing.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's why we try to really connect with every person that subscribes with us. We try to engage the wheel of feedback. So we ask them where they're from, what they do, what they think about the newsletter. So we try to do all these, process of feedback. I'm going to keep doing it. And through feedback, we're going to see when is the right opportunity to start creating premium content.
Yep. We spend like a stupid amount of time just talking to our users. Just like you've probably seen, we encourage them to reply, to talk to us. We jump on the phone with them. And you mentioned a word that for me is key. You mentioned permission.
Yeah.
I've been a big proponent of email as not only as a marketing channel, but also as a communication channel. Ever since I read Permission Marketing by Seth Godin, I don't know, probably 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Yep.
So I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah. If Seth Godin ever listens to my podcast, I would be like embarrassed because I can't go an episode without one of his ideas or concepts like popping up. Permission marketing really changed the game for a lot of people. For me, it was linchpin, just the idea that if you're trying to be what everybody else is, the only thing that you can do to differentiate yourself is make yourself cheaper. And that's a race to the bottom. So in order to succeed, you have to be what he calls a linchpin, which is something that like you can't go without, and I would already consider you guys that. Like now that I've subscribed to the weekly and I get you guys in my inbox and I'm excited about it. Like you can't go without it. I did a whole blog post about this. There's just certain things that once you get it, you can't go back. Like Spotify is one of them for me. You know what I mean? Like I can never not have Spotify again for the rest of my life. Or, for me, my Microsoft Surface, like I can take it anywhere. I can take it on planes. It's got a keyboard, like now that I have it, I can't ever not have it again, and he's just a genius, man. Like, I don't even understand how he figures this shit out. He must just sit around and kind of think of it.
He's a genius. But it's funny. There's a methodology to measure product market fit that looks at how disappointed a user would be if your product wouldn't exist anymore as a proxy for product market fit. And I think we're starting to look at things in that way. How essential are we for your life or for your weeks? So yeah.
Man, I wonder, when you think about it that way, like, what is the thing that esports business professionals need more than anything else? Is it information? Is it contacts? Is it, like being is it being a step in front of everybody else that's trying to do what they do? That really makes me think when you put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We'll think have a long way to go. We still need to talk to our users a lot more. Right now, we have our heads down. We're working hard on the product and the newsletter, but we don't know where this will take us yet. And it's for us. We're not scared. For us, it's super exciting.
That is very exciting. Man, I feel like I covered most of the bases.
It was a good coverage, man.
Yeah. Say again?
It was a good coverage. Yes, we went around
I appreciate it. I just, because with what happens with me with newsletters, like, it's such a simple thing, but I really just kind of geek out over them because they're so just direct. You don't have to go through Facebook. You don't have to go through Google. You don't have to fucking deal with algorithm updates or bait and switches like Facebook has done a million times. And as an SEO, like, I always have to be on the lookout for that. But when you have somebody's email address, it's just you and it's them. And it's like a really, really personal relationship. So to hear you guys saying that, like, you talk to your users all the time and you go back and forth with them, like, you're really solidifying your brand. And I think it's so cool, man. Like, I'm a fan of what you guys are doing. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks, man. We appreciate that.
Thanks. We really do. We really do.
Great. So before we sign off, let's just talk about where people can find out more about you guys personally and, of course, where they can sign up.
Gonzalo, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So you can sign up to a newsletter that's weekly.gg. I also mentioned a different newsletter that we run called seedtable.com. That's about startups and tech in Europe. You can find more about myself. I'm Gon Sanchez S on Twitter. Probably the link to that, it's hard to get at the first time. The link to that will probably be in the show notes. I'll send it over. Franco?
Right. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Glass of Jaeger. Yeah. And then, as Juan said, the newsletter, our main point, come talk to us. We would love to meet new people and tell them about esports.
Sounds great, man. Really, really, again, appreciate your guys' time. Come back. Let's do this again in like a year, and we could talk about how much growth you guys have had and how successful it's been. All right?
We would love to. We had a lot of fun.
Sounds great.
Super fun. Yeah.
Appreciate it, fellas. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Later. Hey guys, it's me. It's Tim. One last time before we wrap up, just wanted to say thank you for tuning into the podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes. Please leave me an honest rating. Please follow me on Spotify. It's the best thing you can do to support the show. If you want to find out more, go to timstods.com. Feel free to fill out the contact form to reach out to me personally. I always respond. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.